Welcome to The Good Pod. Today's podcast is presented by Dr. Barry Napier. If you'd like more information, please visit our website, christiandoctrine.com.
Free speech, yes or no? Christians keep demanding free speech, but is this legitimate or even sensible? In some ways yes, but in other ways no. I would sincerely love to see everything evil removed completely from this earth, but this will not happen until God does it at the end of time. To have free speech is to have no censorship. Is this what we want? If so, then all kinds of evil can take place without disapproval, just as happens today. Do you think God wishes us to have free speech? I don't think so. What then is the real need? In a short podcast, we can only look at a few basic points. So first, let's look at censorship. God himself censors all of life. We can do certain things, but must refrain from doing others. Indeed, we may not even think to do some things, for in God's eyes a sinful thought is as evil as the act. In terms of the unsaved person, censorship is rife. All human laws are censorship. Even in matters of, say, films, a very small group of people censor what we can and cannot see. And what we can see is quickly becoming very sinful, with very little censorship. On TV, the supposed 10 o'clock rule no longer applies, as foul language, explicit sex scenes, and violence are being shown much earlier, thus being seen by young people. In the film world, an elite group decides what we can and cannot see, basing its rules not on God's law, but on what they want society to swallow, giving them big profits. Even before they censor, the type of films offered for censorship is already decided by filmmakers. It is the filmmakers who decide what will be seen, even if censored. In effect, the film censors choose which films will be seen by the public, but they can only choose from films already made by filmmakers who choose the topics and ways of depicting them. And this is nowadays wicked, filthy and rebellious. Okay, what about freedom of speech? The trouble with demanding freedom of speech is that everyone demands it. Many years ago I warned of this future problem, and now it has come to pass. In years of decency, when most people had a sense of morality and sense, they generally rejected what could be called sin. Now, thanks to the inroads made by homosexuals, liberals and atheists, this good sense has been diluted and morality has been ditched. We are almost literally in a time when anything goes. I also warned that if we insist on blasphemy laws, they would be challenged and overthrown and abused by the wicked. Today, Islamists demand blasphemy laws of their own, but theirs would be highly dangerous, leading to tyranny, abuse and even death. Frighteningly, the current Labour government is allowing this danger to grow, as Islam is given many privileges not given to anything else. This already applies in the Middle East and Africa. In the West, Islamists shout loudly for the removal of free speech because it is opposed by the Quranic demand for totalitarian brutality. And it is coming about before our very eyes, as all avenues of opposition are being closed down. Atheists and socialists want the removal of all things God, because God represents what, to them, is ridiculous and fraudulent, and which stops them fulfilling every vice they wish to indulge in, even if it's harmful. Today, the right to be filthy or violent is now acceptable in law. So what is the Christian answer? Now we look at censorship and free speech that needs a balance. What we need is not just biblical, it is a universal, desirable position in any society if we are to maintain right from wrong, good from bad. When it comes to free speech or expression, we may utter or publish opposing views. However, if those views call for violence, death, filth, or publishes foul calumnies, they should not be allowed freedom. Simple opposition with reasoned arguments uttered in the marketplace of ideas are morally and biblically valid. In other words, we should call for freedom of speech within reason, to be closed down if a danger to the public, children, etc. But now what is good for society is banned and censored, while what is obviously bad is made into law and accepted. Clearly, Islam does not allow this freedom to happen, nor does homosexuality, or green pseudo-arguments, or any socialist agenda. They force their views upon all of society and censor opposite views. In everyone's language, this is just fascism and Marxism, not genuine free speech for society's good. Whenever a questionable group uses law to silence others, the ones doing the silencing usually have no valid arguments to make. If they did, others would accept them without much question. Ideally, all values, speech and actions must be presented in the marketplace of ideas, so long as such presentations are decent and moral. Obviously, Islamic killings and rants, homosexual pride, green fake science, and most things socialist do not fit this requirement, and are foisted upon society by just a few. Genuine counter-arguments are not allowed. Freedom is only given to those who wish to close it down. The ideas presented must be put on view honestly, so that society can evaluate them without being intimidated by law or human nastiness. More importantly, views should be discussed or argued against in public. But current governments do not allow this freedom. This goes for Christian presentations too. Once law or violence becomes a censor, the argument by the ones applying law or violence become invalid, proving that the argument has no real substance. Everyone knows this to be true, but there is now a fear of reprisals for stating the obvious. So let Islam present its case, then let Christians present their opposition, openly and fairly, without fear of attack or murder. In our sinful world, many will be sucked into the idolatrous world of Islam and green nonsense. So be it. We can't stop them from being deceived. God will save only those who are already elect. The rest will follow their sins and desires anyway. The same goes for homosexuality. We can offer truth and sense, but those whose hearts are dark, with minds already seduced by sexual evil, will join with homosexual wickedness. Only those whose hearts have been touched by God will resist the temptation, but at least truth can be put forward as an antidote. It is also our duty to do that. Today, Christians are stopped from seeking true biblical freedom of speech because our speech contradicts what socialism and godlessness want. So, let God do this work. Do not be deluded into thinking that we can change anything just by argument or by approaching the supposed non-existent goodwill of governments. Their aim is to rule, not to serve. Such an approach will likely be fruitless. In 2024, government is against God and truth and enforces a godless attitude and laws. But even so, we must demand equal rights to argue our case before men, no matter what sin they represent, because this is our divine right given by God. But as Bunyan found out, governments are very good at rejecting divine rights. Of course, any views that are violent or foul should not be given public access, as they are now. In summary, only God can give freedom of speech and action, and what he demands can be found in Scripture. Outside his word, anything goes, to our detriment. If Christians call for freedom of speech, be aware that those who hate us will not only reject the call, but will ensure their own sins will rule instead. The Church must examine what is meant by freedom of speech and not call for universal freedom of speech for everyone. This subject requires far more arguments and evidences, so tread carefully.